me a thumbs up when you are. Welcome to the Carbon County Higher Education Center General Political Forum for House District number 15 candidates. First announcement is the general election takes place on November 3rd of this year. You can register to vote or vote at the Carbon County Clerk's Office at the Carbon Building. Right now there's early voting happening, or at the Jeffrey Center on November 3rd, so please get out and vote. And we'll go ahead and get started with our two candidates. We've got Dawn Burkhart and Jacqueline Wells. They're gonna do some introductions themselves. So thanks for joining us. So each of you have 3 minutes, and Dawn, we'll go ahead and start with you, your introduction.
Good evening. I'm Dawn Burkhart. I'm your state representative for Rawlins and Sinclair, and it's an honor and a privilege for me to serve in that capacity for all of you. My wife and I have 3 children, 4 grandchildren. I have a degree in physics. The majority of my career has been spent in Wyoming's energy industries, oil and gas and coal, and that. And when not here, I was working in the United States' nuclear weapons program as a manager. I've handled in that capacity $1 million budgets, which puts me in good stead for the upcoming budget issues and crisis. I'm currently a consultant in the oil and gas industry, working for those companies, helping them with some of their budget issues and their other issues. Currently serve the district as vice chair of the Minerals Economic Development and Business Committee in the legislature. I'm also on the Federal Natural Resource Management Select Committee and the Department of Environmental Quality Small Business Advisory Panel, which advises companies on how to meet clean air standards, especially those who cannot afford to hire an environmental consultant to come in. I also serve as liaison to the retirement system and serve Wyoming as their representative on the Energy Council, which is a national organization, and I'm on the executive committee. And that prior to that, I've been Speaker Pro Tem in the Wyoming House. I was Vice Chair of the Appropriations Committee, worked on the subcommittee that established the big game migration corridors in the state and the sage-grouse mitigation plans, which are all a great benefit around here, especially the migration corridors, which are being placed in effect right now. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jacqueline, go ahead.
Good evening, I'm Jackie Wells. I'm also running for House District 15. I am a lifelong resident of Rawlins, Wyoming. I graduated from Rawlins High School in 2004 and then graduated with my associate degree in nursing here at the community college in 2008. And then went on to UW to get my bachelor's and my master's from UW in 2012 and 2015. I began working for Carbon County Public Health in 2010 and then was promoted to the manager in 2014. There I was able to manage the county budget. It's a smaller budget, it's around $300,000, but I do have some experience with that. I also worked with managing grants and obviously supervision. I was promoted to a regional nurse supervisor in 2015, where I travel up and down the state getting to supervise local public health offices. And as you can imagine right now during COVID, that's been quite the challenge. So I've been a state employee for 9 years now. I am married to Garrett Wells. He works at the Sinclair Oil Refinery. And I have 3 boys. Logan's my oldest, he's 12, Lucas is 10, and Lane is 8. And then I also sit on a variety of local coalitions, state boards, and committees. Some of those include the Community Resource Center, where I've been the past chair, the Local Emergency Planning Committee, and I'm their public relations person. And then I am on the Carbon County Juvenile Justice Board, and I've been the secretary there since 2014. I'm also on the Local Prevention Coalition. I'm president of the Rollins Swim Team Club, where my kids swim. And I'm the past president of the Wyoming Public Health Association. I also serve on a medical strike team. So what we would do is, if there was an emergency, we would get all these supplies and get them to the right locations around the state. And I've been on the Rollins City Council now for 2 years, serving at the at-large position. I'm a community leader. I am proud of where I live, and I look forward to serving the great state of Wyoming. Thank you.
Thank you both. So we are going to start with a combination of questions that we have both come up with and have received from the public through various, mostly social media mediums. You'll have 2 minutes to answer all of these questions. Once each of you has spoken, if one of you wants to respond, just let me know and you'll have a 1 minute response time, okay? So we will start with Jacqueline for this first question. So during the recent downturn in revenue, there were essential services that were scaled back or cut entirely, specifically the healthcare department, higher education, corrections. More cuts may be coming. What would you support and what would you cut?
Ooh, that is a tough question. It's really hard when you talk about cuts because everybody's going to be affected. That's really hard. Obviously, I support healthcare. I support education. Those are my 2 biggest passions, but when you're talking about statewide cuts, nobody wants to see jobs get cut. Nobody wants to see. So probably the programs that would have the least impact on the people of Wyoming, I would say. Because I feel like the people of Wyoming come first, but I would have to dig way deeper to know where that would be, and deep into the budget to know a little bit more about that. But usually people come first, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. And Don?
The first thing is the cuts are severe, I believe. The new thing we need to do is maintain the needs, especially for those, the most needy, our senior citizens, those with severe health problems that really do rely on those services to maintain them. There are probably some things that we do need to reduce. I think some of the areas have already gone too far. I think the Department of Corrections has been cut considerably too much, considering the area they work in. I mean, their job is to keep the people of this community safe from the penitentiary and the other communities, keep their own employees safe, and frankly, keep the inmates safe. And I think those cuts have possibly jeopardized that, and I know that's being reviewed and will be reviewed during the upcoming legislative session. But you must meet the needs first, the wants come second, and there are a lot of wants. But I think everyone's going to take a hit. When you have a limited amount of money, that's all there is. The state doesn't print more, so to speak. We have to look at those services and those needs that come first. Healthcare, family services, Department of Corrections, and some other things. And I think what you'll see is some programs, and they're all good programs, that will have to be eliminated. And state employees are already losing their jobs, which is really tough because they're all good people.
Okay, thank you. So we have a little bit of a follow-up to that question, and Dawn, we'll start with you since we started with Jackie on the last one. So there's some concern in the state that these services that have been cut will not be brought back to the previous levels or brought back at all. What are your ideas about restoring or bolstering these services, and how can we protect them in the future?
I don't know that you can say that the services will permanently go away. Right now, we all need to, as the saying goes, and it's a trite saying by now, we're all in this together. The state is having to reduce services in a lot of areas. I know mental health is one that's dear to my heart, and I would like to see funded, and they've stayed at a level funding the last 2 budget cuts, but they're going to take a cut, which I don't wanna see. I think that will come back. But I think every program is gonna have a long, hard look at the benefits, the efficiencies, what it does for the people, what it might not do, how it's run. I think you're gonna see some efficiencies come out of it. Some programs may not be renewed. Others, I think, will be brought back, and hopefully some of them will be brought back even in a better condition than they were when the budget downturn hit. So, and again, like I said, I hope mental health is one of those. Service to senior citizens. They're trying to make those reductions as easy as possible, as light as possible. But the position is every agency has had to take something. And for some that only have employees, that means they've had to eliminate jobs, which is tough. But I think those jobs will come back. And I think people will be hired back. We just have to make sure we come up with programs and ways to do that in the budget.
Okay, thank you.
I've worked for the state for 9 years, and we've seen a lot of times where the budget goes down, the budget goes up. A lot of the services I've seen over the years haven't come back. I know the recent ones that I've been impacted with was, well, I'm getting furloughed 1 day a month for 6 months at least. But also immunizations for adults that don't have insurance have been cut. Home services for seniors, I just found out about this one yesterday or Tuesday, and I was just heartsick over it that our home service here has been cut, where they won't be able to have the housekeepers come clean their house and then check in on them a couple days a week. So that one really hits hard. I want to think that we can get to a place where we don't have the boom and bust cycles, where we can stabilize our economy. If we broaden our industry a little bit, I think we can get to a good place. And it would be better if we just kept it even, instead of 1 minute we have money, the next minute we don't. Because these cycles really do hurt people, and you lose good people when these things happen. You know, a lot of times these people don't come back to apply to the job, 5 years when the funding's back. So I really feel it's the people that make these jobs, it's the people that work in the home setting with these adults that take care of them, that really care about and are passionate about them, that are affected the most. And it's sad to see the good people lost during all of this. But I think we need to stabilize Wyoming.
Okay, thank you. On that note, we have kind of a slew of questions about energy, so I'm just going to ask a couple of them, and we'll come back to the others if we've got time at the end. But to start off, and we'll start with Jacqueline again on this one. Wyoming got caught again with our dependence on energy revenue. What ideas do you have, if any, to diversify the Wyoming economy in the short and in the long term?
Yeah, I talked about this in the last forum a little bit, but I think we need to expand our fiber optics throughout Wyoming. I think it would attract bigger industries to Wyoming, some manufacturing. We are in such great proximity to I-80 over there, and I think that we could really take advantage of that if we looked a little broader. I'm a big proponent of energy. My husband works for the Sinclair oil refinery. I support oil and gas, but I do think it's time that we diversify so we're not just relying on them through these hard times.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. In a lot of ways, Wyoming is kind of like Saudi Arabia. We rely that much on our energy production and I think that is going to have to change. It will change. We're looking at other things. There are programs to do other things with coal. There are programs to do a lot of different things right now that have just started coming to the forefront. They're looking at getting rare earth and strategic materials, critical materials from coal. They tell me I was instrumental in bringing a Department of Energy grant into Wyoming to do that, to look at getting these materials from coal And now the Department of Energy is also gonna bring in a satellite office for Wyoming, and we're up for another, I don't know, the total amount of grant out there is something like $122 million that we'll get part of it. So that's part of that, and that's gonna bring high-tech jobs in. Other part is the trona industry is looking at expanding. That's a bright spot on the horizon, and they're talking about hiring an additional 400 to 500 people. And I've had discussions with them on building glass plants in Wyoming to make bottles, that sort of thing. And the nice thing with that is all the glass that we have trouble recycling could go to that plant and be recycled. We become a regional destination for, say, glass recycling. There are potentials for lithium deposits north of Rock Springs. And while it's all coming out of the ground, we're doing other things with it. With the coal, with the oil, and not strictly relying on those. I know that there'll be a number of bills coming up in the coming session to enhance and go forward with those industries and to do what the state can to encourage them to move in. And the ones that are here to stay here.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Don, we'll start with you. Since 2010, oil and gas companies have failed to pay $97.7 million in production taxes on time. This failure has hamstrung many agencies in the state who depend on those taxes. The legislature now requires corporations to pay their ad valorem taxes monthly, which is a step in the right direction. Do you think this is a sufficient incentive for corporations to pay their taxes on time, or are there other steps we should consider?
So on the oil and gas revenue, at one time the state actually kept auditors in Houston, Texas to go and audit these companies to make sure they were paying on time. While the ad valorem tax changes, which now will require a monthly ad valorem tax rather than twice a year, and that twice a year was always a half a year in arrears, they'll pay monthly and it'll be right up to date, which is a good thing. And that the part of that really makes a difference is that the state now has a priority lien on those taxes over and above everyone else's lien. So that the states, the towns, the counties get that sales tax money, the ad valorem tax money before anybody else, including the banks. I know the banks aren't happy with that, but that tax base funds the services and the communities and that throughout the state. So that's part of it, and that's part of what the legislature has done in the past year to start correcting that. Interesting thing is that the coal industry precipitated those changes, but it's the oil and gas industry that will feel them most.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I have to kind of question, how did we get to this point where people aren't paying the taxes that are due? I think the monthly payments will be a step in the right direction, but to me, it's kind of sad that we got to a place that we're so reliant and so desperate, and now we're trying to do something. I think if we would have been ahead of the issue years ago, then maybe we wouldn't be in this situation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, new topic. What can be done in the legislature to assist municipalities and counties to attract businesses? Start with you.
Well, I am serving on the Rollins City Council, and we go to WAM, which is Wyoming Association of Municipalities, and they have 2 conferences a year, and this is one of the greatest resources that a city council or a county person can attend, because you learn just so much. But I think greater support from the state in trying to attract these kind of types of businesses would help. And I think part of that is building the infrastructure throughout Wyoming so they can attract those different resources to our state. So like I said, the fiber optics, I think, would be a huge incentive for some of these businesses to come in and make Wyoming their home.
Thank you.
Thank you. The legislature has already done quite a bit to attract businesses. The legislature funds the Wyoming Business Council, whose job is to attract and bring business into the state, to help them move to the state, tell them what they need to do. The legislature has put money into that program. There is money out there already for large projects where they can borrow at a reasonable rate. The state will still make money, money to put in large projects. I know one that looked at it was a pharmaceutical company in the northern part of the state. The state has a program to loan money to the communities to set up infrastructure, and I think the Cheyenne development area is a prime example of some of that work. That industrial park that lies on the east side of Cheyenne is a good example of what they've done and to assist companies. There are small companies moving into Wyoming that we don't hear about that the Business Council helps through any number of means, especially getting them to come in and look at Wyoming. They've quietly moved in and are establishing good businesses. There's a company that makes high-tech products out of tungsten that has moved here because they like the environment in Wyoming. They like the country, they like the landscape, they like the people. So they moved to a company that makes tungsten products. One example would be the studs in a vehicle are made from tungsten. I don't know that that's what they do, but they're doing some high-tech work. And again, the Business Council's invited them in. What we need to do now is to push some of our technical and career education training to get enough people to supply the needs of these companies. That's one of the big shortfalls right now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question. How can the Wyoming legislature take up the idea from UW, One Wyoming, and better serve our people? Don, we'll start with you.
So UW has that One Wyoming program, and I think it can serve as a model. The legislature represents the entire state, so if a statute is passed, it applies to the entire state, which sometimes the different sections of the state are a little at odds with each other. We don't get as much tourism, for example, as the northwest corner of the state, and I think we could expand on that. We've got the Department of Tourism to consider that, and if you look at their latest tourist magazines, they've now included this part of the state in some of that advertising, which is a good thing. And again, all to the we're one Wyoming. And I think I've said this multiple times, what's good for Rollins is good for Wyoming, and what's good for Wyoming is good for Rollins and Sinclair.
Okay, thank you.
I think what makes Wyoming so unique is that everywhere you go has a different feel. There's some amazing places all over the state, and each person that lives in those communities feels really connected to their community. It would be nice to be able to broaden that, bring in the people together on a single purpose. I really think that there's amazing parts of this state that are untapped, and I think Rollins and Sinclair are actually probably right there. I don't think people know the beauty of what we have here. You know, we're 45 minutes from the lake, 45 minutes from the mountains. I just love this town, and I know that it always bothers me when I travel all over the state and we are thought of as the sore of Wyoming. And I get really defensive because this town is amazing and it's brought me such a great life. So I think when we represent Wyoming, we can set a good example and show people how great even our little cities are. And that's the benefit of getting on the Wyoming legislature, is you get all these people from all over Wyoming, and we all are passionate about where we live and and we really have this beautiful connection to Wyoming. And the people that live here, they want to be here, and they don't necessarily want other people to move in, but Once people move in, we embrace them, so it's a really beautiful place.
Thank you. So we've just combined two questions here that we had, one that was specific to Jackie, so we combined two so that it would be appropriate for both of you to speak to, and they do tie together. So the question comes because you're in the middle of a Rollins City Council term. So the question is, well, the two questions. First, what assurances can you give the residents of Carbon County that you will complete a full term in the Wyoming legislature if you're elected and not leave in the middle of your term? And then second, what are your thoughts on term limits?
Sure. So the first part of that is this opportunity kind of was given to me. I had full intentions of completing my term on the Rollins City Council, but then life changes and something throws you a great opportunity. I usually finish things all the way through. That's my goal with this. I stick to it. I go to every council meeting. I'm very rarely not there, so I do my part when I'm there. And I love the Rollins City Council, and if I don't get elected, I'm going to continue my term. On the other side, I do believe in term limits. I think that we aren't meant to be career politicians. That's not the goal, that's not why people should go into politics. You should have young ideas, new ideas, different passions that show through, and I think everybody should take a shot at representing the places they love. And I feel like some ideas get stagnant if you have the same people over and over and over. So yes, I'm all for term limits. I signed a pledge online that says I am for term limits, and that's that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I have finished every term I've been elected to, and I've made every day in the House and every committee meeting. I've never missed one. So I think that speaks for itself on following through with my commitment to the people. On term limits, I think we already have term limits. It's in the ballot box. And that Wyoming tried term limits a few years ago, and the Supreme Court ruled them unconstitutional in Wyoming, except for the governor. Interesting decision by the court. So that's my feelings on them. They're there already. And like I said, other than the governor is limited to 2 terms. There are no term limits. And one thing with term limits at times, what happens is that you lose a lot of continuity. There's a lot of things, if you get rid of too many people one time, that end up having to start all over again. You lose that institutional knowledge. Other way is new ideas are new ideas, and they're different. So, but I think the situation's already handled in Wyoming.
Okay, thank you. Next question. This came from the public today, in fact. How are you planning to, or how do you, promote Carbon County in a positive light to the rest of the state, considering what has happened in other districts, with some representatives promoting their counties in a poor light or not as the constituents want?
I think with Carbon County, if you look at the county, the representative district is really Rollins and Sinclair, and the county's much bigger than that. But Rollins and Sinclair are great communities. The people here are fantastic. I mean, I don't know another community around where a stranger can knock on the door and get a room for the night from another perfect stranger. It happens during the winter. And I think it's a matter of just promoting them in a positive light. Stop the, oh, you're from Rollins, and explain why Rollins is a great place. Sinclair? No, explain to them why Sinclair is such a great place. And they are. I mean, if you look back at some of the records that go back into the 20s and 30s, Rollins and Sinclair were considered great and fantastic stopping places on the Lincoln Highway, what's now Highway 30, for a variety of reasons, the people, the services, and all of those. And I think we just need to continue to push those with the people. When you look at all the trucks and the tourists that stop, we have to get them to stay. And I think there are a variety of ways we can do that. I think there are a variety of different things that can be done. And that One being, for example, use Highway 30. There's a great nostalgia in the country for the old days. I think having an old car run where they could drive on parts of Highway 30 as it existed then, and there are still few paved parts around, would be a great idea. But I think it's up to each individual to promote their community and the benefits of it. I know people who've come through here, I've met them, and have ended up wanting to retire here because they liked it so much, and we need to just build on that.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with Dawn. I do think that it comes from us. You know, we set the example for the rest of the state, and we set the example for the rest of Carbon County, and we set the example for the rest of Rollins and St. Clair. You probably will never hear me say anything negative about Rollins or St. Clair, and if I do, please call me on it, because I try so very hard to promote my town and my community all throughout the state. I traveled every 3 months for work, and I go all the way up the state, and I meet a variety of people all over Wyoming. And when I tell them I'm from Rollins, you get a mixed review, but I always like to tell them all the beautiful things about it. I still think that one of our biggest selling points here is that we live so close to the lake, we live so close to the mountains. We have some of the best hunting, some of the best fishing around. We have great jobs. Where else in Wyoming can you graduate from high school and go get a really high-paying, awesome job with very little technical training? If you're a kid from Rollins, you have a pretty good shot. I know my husband just loves his job at St. Clair, and it's given us a good life. And so there's so many things about this town, and we just need to show pride in our community. We definitely need to show pride, so.
Okay, thank you. Next question. So, and we'll start with you. Due to COVID-19, many people are moving to Wyoming or buying property here in Wyoming, sometimes even sight unseen. Is Wyoming prepared for this? And if not, what can we do to prepare?
Oh, I think that's a great question. It's funny to me that that's what brought people to Wyoming. Out of all the things, a global pandemic, that's what's bringing people here. But I think ultimately it's a good thing. Obviously, with new places comes new ideas. My mom's a realtor, so she has been showing people from all over houses, and it's pretty astonishing, really. I know Sheridan's been hit pretty hard. Cody's been hit pretty hard. I don't know if we're ever ready for big transitions, but I welcome newcomers, and I think they're going to be good for the state. I know a lot of people feel like we don't need their views, we don't need more people, but really different viewpoints are only going to bring better success for Wyoming and new ideas. So I'm excited to see what happens. It's sad that it has to be over COVID, but I'm excited to see what comes. And welcome to Wyoming if you're here from somewhere else.
Thank you. I think we need, with these new people coming in, we need to do what we're really good at, which is welcoming them to town. For some of them, yes, they're trying to escape COVID. I don't think that is really workable, but it's nice to have them. I hope they get here and like it. My concern would be as they last a winter and leave. I've seen that happen more than once, that they don't really understand the lifestyle here. But I think overall it's a good thing. I would be concerned about the future, that they don't decide everybody that is moving here this year decides next year to leave, what that would do to the housing market, and I would hope they would stay. These are all good people. We need to give them a chance and welcome them to the community. They bring a lot with them. I hope they invest in the community. I hope they become part of the community and not just come here to escape. I hope they are running to something rather than away from something. And I think we should encourage them to do that.
Okay, thank you. Next question. How do you feel the governor has handled the COVID-19 situation?
Thank you. Tough question, because everyone has their own opinion on how to handle the issue. I hear it every day, literally. My email is jammed with people who have a better idea. Given the circumstances, I think the governor and also the Department of Health have done an excellent job. Working without all the answers, without all the information, and having to, and sometimes, guess what the right course of action is. I think they've done an admirable job. Would any of us have done it differently? I think all of us would have done it differently in some way or another, but I think they've done an admirable job. We just had a question about people moving here to escape COVID, so I think maybe that validates something that Wyoming as a whole has done. We've never really shut down. Certain businesses have, and we've taken care of those businesses. The legislature and the governor office have. But we've never shut down, which I think is an attractive feature. We've told people take the precautions you need. I felt bad that some businesses were shut down. That I think it was up to all of us to help support those businesses through it by getting takeout meals and that sort of thing. So I would say the governor's done a good job overall. And like I said, we would have done things, all of us would have done things differently. Right now, there's a move to have a special legislative session over having the children wear masks in schools. You know, people forget that the Dr. Harris, as a medical doctor, takes an oath to first do no harm and to look out for the needs of the patient. And that's really what she is doing in advising the governor. And that, so I would go along with what the governor has done.
Okay, thank you.
Well, this one's near and dear to my heart. COVID-19 hit us, and it hit us pretty hard. And, you know, 1 minute we, the medical community, including the governor and Dr. Harris, were told one thing, and then the next day it changed. So considering all the circumstances and all the information we had at the time, I think we have done the best job we could possibly do with what we know. It changes. The recommendations change by the day, and you're just trying to play catch up all the time. I personally ate out way too much during COVID-19 when the restaurants were having to do takeout. I gained my COVID-19 pounds. And I feel like it was unfortunate that we had to go to these extremes, but what we were trying to do is protect the citizens of Wyoming and, you know, even our most vulnerable populations, kids with special healthcare needs, adults with predetermined conditions, our elderly population, people in nursing homes and assisted livings, my grandparents, your grandparents. So ultimately, considering all of the information we have, I don't think we could have, I personally think we've done the best we can with what's been given. And Wyoming, luckily, is very socially distanced on it naturally, so it's really played a beautiful part in it. And I can't imagine living anywhere else in the country right now. And yes, I do believe the governor did a good job.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna go back to one more energy question before we wrap it up. So, Jacqueline, Wyoming has long tied its economic fortunes to coal. Given the number of utility companies that are transitioning from coal to other resources, that link seems to put Wyoming and her citizens in jeopardy. Do you think coal genuinely has a future as a robust economic driver?
Oh, yeah, that was a tough question. I value coal. I think what Dawn was saying earlier, that they are using new ways to use it, is going to be beneficial. But I do think we need to look bigger than that. I think we need to look past coal. We need to look past oil and gas. There's so much more we can do in Wyoming, and I don't feel like we need to put all our eggs in one basket. I truly support oil and gas. My husband works in oil and gas, and I think that those industries are so vital to Wyoming. But if we put all our eggs in one basket, then how are we going to be able to sustain over years and years? So really, we need to diversify, and we need to look at the bigger picture for Wyoming.
Thank you.
Thank you, very good question. I think we still have a future with coal, not as robust as it was in years past. Predictions are that by 2045, 40% of the power plants in the United States will still be coal. It'll still be part of the base load for electric generation. And my aim is that all 40% of that comes from Wyoming. I think we're in a great position to supply it. The Wyoming coal is clean coal. Just by switching it to it, a lot of companies meet their pollution requirements. Transportation is an issue I think we need to really work on. But I think there is a future for coal, both as thermal coal or coal for power plants and for other uses, such as potentially getting rare earths out of them. Other thing with coal, we can develop that into other things. The easiest way to get carbon dioxide is from a coal-fired power plant. Right now, carbon dioxide is actually more valuable than natural gas for enhanced oil recovery. There are companies now looking at producing carbon dioxide off the flue gas at a power plant, and the easiest way to get that is off a coal-fired power plant, not a natural gas plant or anything else. So there's actually, the economy is changing, and we need to stay nimble enough to take advantage of those changes. So I think there's a future for coal. It won't be as robust as it was in the past, but I think it'll be part of the economy for quite a while we transition to other things, and I think that's something we need to do. And transitioning to more STEM industries, science, technology, engineering, mathematics-based industries is really what the future holds. And that puts us on a world stage to compete worldwide.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're gonna give you each 2 minutes to do closing. So, Don, we'll go ahead and start with you when you're ready.
Thank you. As the budget crunch hits us, and it will hit us hard, I'm in a position, due to my experience, knowledge, skills, creativity, leadership in the legislature, to address those issues. I've done it in the past. A lot of the previous budget reductions that most people didn't even see but were needed, I've generated. I've also been told I have some of the most fiscally conservative ideas that are truly fiscally conservative, such as keeping our permanent mineral trust fund capital gains intact and not spending them, are probably some of the better ideas the state has seen. I have an idea on funding that has just come up that I was described as creative, that we were looking for new ways, and that's it. So I think I'm well positioned to help get the state through the next 4 years. I don't know what 4 years holds, but the projections are the budget will stay tight for 4 years. So that's why I say 4 years, but we need to establish now what we're going to do for those 4 years and how we'll do it. And I think I have the skills and experience and that to do it. And I'm Representative Don Burkhart, and I ask for your vote on November 3rd.
Thank you.
As I mentioned earlier, I really feel like we need to diversify Wyoming. That doesn't just mean diversify the industries, but I also feel we need to diversify the legislature. I'm a young, educated woman. That's not very well represented in our state legislature, women in particular. I also feel like now is the time that we need more women in politics. And I know that's not the only component of me. I'm smart, I learn fast, I value health, education, our public lands, equality and human rights, and family. I support Medicaid expansion, but I also support Wyoming's infrastructure. I just love this state and I want to do what's best for this state, and I would appreciate your vote on November 3rd. And please vote. Please get out and vote.
Thank you. Just want to say thanks to each candidate. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Jackie, for joining us tonight. Thank you to everybody who is joining us on Facebook Live, and thanks to all of the public that has submitted questions for tonight. Our next political forum will take place on Monday, October 12th, 6 p.m., again on Facebook Live, and that'll be our Rollins City Council. So please join us then. And before we let you go tonight, we've got one more message from our director, Dr. David Throgmorton, here at Carbon County Higher Ed.
Greetings, I'm Dave Throgmorton, Director of Carbon County Higher Ed, and thanks for joining us tonight. And thank you, Don, thank you. Jacqueline, I really appreciate it. I enjoyed this very much, and I learned a few things tonight, and thanks. It was great. I would also like to remind you that on the ballot, and I second what Jackie said earlier, go vote please, but also on the ballot, you will see a 1/2 mill levy for Carbon County School District Number 1. That 1/2 mill levy funds this, the Carbon County Higher Education Center. So as you're going through your ballot, I just would like to remind you that that is there, and you know what you get from the Carbon County Higher Education Center. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. You did a great job tonight, Jennifer. Thanks a lot. Janet, you've got a future in film.